Welcome to the third edition of Behind the Helmet, where we're joined by Indy Lights driver Sting Ray Robb throughout the 2022 Indy Lights season as he pursues the championship. I'm your host, David Hoffman, and I'm joined by the driver of the number 2 for Andretti Autosport, Sting Ray Robb. Sting Ray, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, David. How are you?
Doing pretty well. So we've have a lot to talk about between you being at the Indy 500 and obviously a couple podiums at the road course. So I guess starting off, we'll go with race number 1, where I'd say that was a pretty clean race overall compared to the one the day after. You started 6th, finished 3rd. Clean race. Daniel Frost scored the victory from the pole. Kind of describe that race and how that went.
Yeah, I mean, race 1 there was pretty good. I thought that after qualifying, we were going to have our work cut out for us. It seemed like the other cars in front of us were just flat out faster. I was struggling with the car and practicing qualifying, and I think that we made a good adjustment to get the car more consistent for me during the race run in race 1. And we didn't really know where the car was going to land on balance, so we kind of guessed, and it was pretty close. And from there, I mean, I was just driving along behind the cars in front of me, and there was guys making mistakes, and I was there to pick up the pieces. So I feel very lucky and blessed to get a 3rd. I mean, I was right behind Brabham when he and Peterson got together in turn 1, and that was like a gift. It's like, oh man, thank you so much. That was awesome. Thank you. And then again, I mean, it was unfortunate that Christian, I mean, poor guy, he cannot catch a break this year. But fighting it out with Lundqvist, it just looked like they were both pushing hard and both being aggressive, and they got into it. So, I mean, both of those incidents just gave me a gift for positions. And then, I mean, I thought we were quick enough to keep with the guys up front, but I mean, Frost, he did a good job of just staying consistent out front during the rest of the race.
And then obviously race 2, the one that was probably one of the crazier ones that I'm sure you've had in your career. First off, I guess you technically started 5th, right? Like that was your starting position, but then you ended up having to. What happened with you ended up going back to 13th at the start? What was that?
Man, that start was so messy. I don't think I've ever seen a start green flag that was that messy. Lundqvist did this little dive to the inside move before he took off, and when he did that, other cars just went. And at that point, I think that the inside road just got checked up a little bit, and I got shuffled back pretty quickly, and pretty soon I was lifting on the straight to just avoid getting chopped and get my front wing taken off or anything. It was just survival at that point. And then getting down in turn 1, I look in the mirror and there's one car left behind me. So at that point I was pretty motivated to go forward, just because it's like, man, this day is already ruined. I don't have anything to lose now. I can lose one spot, so I was just fighting my way forward from there.
And I think the first 12 laps were in the dry, and then rain and everything else came through. So then you guys had to wait till after the IndyCar race. What's that waiting period like? I don't know how often you've had to deal with something like that, but to come fresh out of the car and have to watch another series compete, and then come back through and have to try and reboot everything and try and make sure the year is ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, I went from 13th to 8th in the dry, and I thought we had a really good car. And so when the red flag came out, I was so disappointed. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, we were going forward. We would have been fine. I was like, we could have got a top 5, maybe fought our way forward, whatever. And then the rain came. And I mean, this is after IndyCar's mayhem of a race. That was like the most insane IndyCar race I've ever seen in my life. Like, I think historically, that is one to go down in the record books because it was just insane. And Colton Herta, what a drive.
I was gonna say, could you have done the little Chokyo drift through there?
That was unbelievable. I watched this whole onboard after the race, and I'm like, that kid was wheeling it, absolutely wheeling it. So huge props to him. I mean, the IndyCar race was entertaining. So I was on the pit stand watching that on Grosjean's stand before I went back to our trailer, and they're like, hey, we're going to go green in 30 minutes. I'm like, oh shoot. Okay. I thought we were like done for the day. So that waiting period, it seemed like it lasted too long, but we were able to get back in the cars, and it's kind of weird. I mean, it's like having a double header weekend in one day. So it's like a triple header almost, but not, so it was definitely interesting to fight the weather and then get back in the car and feel like you have to start all over again. But I mean, I'm happy for it. The rain worked out well for us.
I was gonna say with the rain, I know a lot of the IndyCar guys were complaining about just the aero screen itself really having visibility problems. I know it's a little bit different on in the Indy Lights car. Did that give you any issues as when he got out there again?
Oh yeah. I mean, I couldn't see for the first 5 laps going down into turn one on the restart. I mean, I was like guessing where I was. There's actually a big, I think it's like a speedway sign on the inside of turn one. And I was just watching that. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to brake when I get next to that sign. And I don't know where the turn is after that. I just know I'm getting close. And so I was just picking landmarks that were, 100 feet in the air, trying to figure out which way was up. But like I said, that first 5 laps of the race it's like you threw a white curtain over your head and you're trying to walk around. You're just trying to run into so many walls, but pray that no one spins out in front of you.
And luckily that worked out. And I mean, to go from 13th to third, I'd say that's as good of a performance you could possibly have besides winning the race. But how
Yeah.
did that feel, just to know that you have that kind of team behind you that can give you that kind of car that is gonna go wherever you want it to, and you're gonna be successful.
Yeah, no, I feel super confident with the team where we're at right now. My engineer and I are communicating well, and I think that showed during race one, just because we didn't have the car to compete really in qualifying, and I wasn't I felt confident in it, but my engineer's like, nah, I know I can do better. So it was cool that he was able to adapt the car to what I needed and what I wanted, and then make adjustments from there for race two. And I thought we had a really good race car in race two, and then wet and dry both. But yeah, that rain race, it was another one of those things where it's just like you're picking up the pieces as people leave them on the track. So I was super glad that we could finish. And I mean, that was pretty much it. I actually didn't know that I finished third when I crossed the start and finish line. I crossed and I got on the radio. I'm like, good job, guys. I thought we were like fourth or fifth. Because I was just picking off one car in front of me. That's all I could tell because the curtain of water over everyone just blinded me. And so I was just seeing one red light at a time, and that's what I was going for. But when we got into pits, I only saw 2 cars in pit lane in front of me. I'm like, oh yeah, let's go. So I was so excited. And no, it was pretty cool to get 2/3 on the weekend. But like you said, it's the only way to top that is to get a win. So hopefully that's coming up soon.
I know you mentioned before in a previous episode how really precious points are, and obviously,
Hmm.
winning a race. I mean, my goodness, Lundqvist, he's a little bit out there in points, but obviously having 2 wins will do that. I guess going into Detroit, then, what are the expectations, knowing that's a very tight technical street course where passing can be at a premium?
I think qualifying is going to be everything. And I don't know if you've seen yet, but the qualifying schedule for this weekend will be a little bit different than normal because it is a double header. We are going to have to qualify twice. And
Hmm.
so instead of doing one 30-minute session, we're doing 2 12-minute sessions back to back. And it's just to allow time for yellow flags or anything else. And that way you get like true qualifying runs in. Because otherwise, like we'll have the same scenario at Indy. We put 2 new sets of tires on, and the first set's pretty much just a throwaway. Like it's not getting you anywhere. And so to get your first and second fast laps in, you just really have to focus on that second set and being consistent on it. So it'll be a little bit better of a setup, I think, because it'll be based on actual raw speed in case like lap traffic comes and you don't get that second lap. It's just more forgiving, I think, to have the 2 sessions.
That will definitely help. And I guess, is this going to be your third and fourth time at Detroit then? Because I know you ran there
Yeah.
last year. Okay.
Yeah.
How would you describe that circuit? Because I know a lot of guys have talked about how it's really bumpy, really just
Yeah.
unforgiving.
No, it's exactly that. It's super bumpy. It's super unforgiving. And I think that this year it'll be a little bit cooler than it was last year. So it should have a little bit more of a balance there. But last year during the heat of the weekend, I mean, it's like 90 degrees out. The sun's just raking the track temp up. And when it gets like that, it's brutal. And especially like during the fountain section there, you're trying to balance the car, right? Like there's no real brake zone through the fountain turn. And so you're just trying to like keep the balance of the car in check. You're keeping it platform, throttle on, throttle off, and just trying to steer the car enough, and then really just grip the wheel going to the hairpin. And when you do that in the hot, high temps, your hands just start to blister and get tired, and you're exhausted, and you're getting the brain fade and everything else. And so I'm happy that it's not going to be that way this year. I think it'll allow for better racing. And that's not to say that it wasn't good racing last year. I think that Detroit races pretty well. And depending on how tight the field is, I guess we'll see how it goes.
I'm gonna say, with how does, at least for a street circuit, how does that vary with with the heat and, like, I guess with track temperature? Does it get slicker like a typical racetrack does, or just a little bit different because of it being on like a street circuit?
I think it is a little bit different. Detroit is mostly like a light concrete. And so it doesn't get as affected with the track temp as say like Indianapolis, because Indy, they just did the new sealer, right? So that track surface is like a super dark black. And so it absorbs heat a lot more than it would at like a lighter surface track like Detroit. And so I think it's more consistent through the day, but I mean, aero is going to change no matter what you do. Air density matters so much in a race car, especially in high downforce Formula cars, and maybe less on a street course than it would on a road course. But you're definitely going to see through the weekend just like rubber getting laid down and lap times dropping every lap. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that we're just going to keep getting faster and faster and faster.
Hopefully that faster pace will end up getting you guys one step closer to, P2, P1. I feel like it's been right there. Like I feel like it's gonna be here soon. We can only hope and pray for that.
Exactly. Yeah, we're knocking on the door. We just need someone to open it for us.
Yeah. And so obviously, what was I gonna say? You were at Indy for Indy 500. What was that experience like? What did what did you end up doing? How long were you there? That kind of thing.
Yeah, so I mean, I was there for the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and got to go to the carb day. I got to be on the timing stand for the practice on Rossi's stand, and just listen to everything that's going on. I mean, I'm just there to learn as much as I can. The game changes so much in the Indy 500 just because it's so technical and so many things are happening so quickly, and you're just dancing on a knife edge. And so I think that it's a lot more precise in things that are being said and the way the engineering is being handled and the way the drivers have to drive. And it's just everything has to be so perfect. And that's just even to survive. I mean, not even to win. To win, it's like you need to have perfection and some. So like definitely it was super cool to be on the timing stand. And then Saturday night we got to go to the Andretti party, and holy cow, like
What's
I
the
had my
Indy
mind blown.
car? Like the silver looking Indy car?
It's a disco Indy car, man. They hang it from the ceiling and let it spin. And it's like the whole party was at that level. It's like Cirque du Soleil acts going on in there, and bars set up all over the place. They even had like gambling tables. The theme was Old Vegas. And
Oh,
so
okay.
I had like a blue shiny velvet suit jacket that I wore so I could
Oh
like
boy.
stand out. Yeah, I was trying to fit into the theme there. So it was pretty fun. It was a really cool event. And I mean, it's nice that it's like racing theme too. Like I haven't been to a party that's that legit, that's
Mm,
racing theme. I mean, come on, like the Indy cars hanging from the ceiling. It doesn't get much better than that. So
with that in your
that
own
was
house.
super awesome. Exactly. Yeah, I want that in my house on the wall. Um, but yeah, I got to meet and greet a lot of people there. Lots of guys that I don't think I would have had the chance to do that with. And I mean, obviously, any chance I can rub elbows with the IndyCar guys is pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
So standing around next to them was pretty fun. And then Sunday, just got there early in the morning. But this year's event was unbelievable. It seemed like there was so many more people. My first Indy 500 was last year,
Yeah.
and so I got to feel the partial capacity. But this year, it seemed like it was tenfold. Like there was so many people, it was packed, and it was actually kind of nice too because I got to be down on the timing stand for Devlin DiFrancesco
Okay.
for a good portion of the race. And so I was getting to hear everything live of what was being said in the car. And I don't know if you got to see it, but he had a moment that was absolutely insane in turn one. And we could see the steering traces on the data and everything else. So I don't know. It was super cool. I thought the race was really, really well done. Not as many pit lane incidents as we've had in the past, which was nice. And I think it was just good racing overall. Marcus drove a great race. I think that he sat in the right spot, saved his fuel, ran the right speeds. He was a sleeper the whole entire time. I mean, I didn't even realize he was there till the last 50 laps of the race.
Yeah, it really seemed like like I feel like a lot of times in any race that he's won, he's been lurking, but then you don't think about it until he's
Mm-hmm.
leading this thing. But
Yeah.
and then I didn't get to see the DiFrancesco thing, but it just seemed like there's so much more. I don't know, like I felt like the restarts were more frantic in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah. No, I agree.
I just I talked to what was it? I think it was Ferrucci a couple hours ago about that, and just the fact that like it just seemed like a lot of the guys, especially around the paddock, have kind of figured out, like all the crews, all the teams have kind of figured out the DW12, just a little bit more of how to I guess like not critique it, but like fine tune it in a way where you can
Mm-hmm.
get the most out of the passing. And I mean, who knows when when that chassis will end up going away, but it just seems like they're really starting to kind of turn a corner and figure out, like, get a little bit more speed out of it, get a little bit more just like
Yeah.
oomph out of the car in general.
Yeah. I think that's because of aero screen though. I think that they had it figured out. A lot of teams did, and then now they kind of had to start over with the aero screen putting put on the car. And I think, I mean, at the speedway, that's even more of a factor, just because it's a higher roll center, it's a higher weight, it's more drag or whatever. It's just it changes so many different factors in the car, and who knows what that all does, in passing and saving fuel and whatever else. And I think that the teams are starting to figure it out now. So maybe that'll carry over to the next car. Maybe it won't. We'll see. But yeah, no, I think it was a really good race. And like you said, the restarts were crazy. And I think that just speaks to the fact of how tight the field is in IndyCar. Like there's so many good drivers out there.
It's like even going top to bottom, like the night before, and I was looking at it, you're like, there's at least 20 guys that I could say he could possibly win it, and which is exciting to think about, because there's the talent is just oozing out of like the pot per se. And, like just to see that, and like to have like so many different guys, you're like, okay, he could win, or, it's like, it was just cool to, see everything kind of, pan out the way it did.
Yeah. Oh, and it's cool to see too, because there's so many different strategies. Like, for example, I got to be behind the scenes with Rossi a little bit, and he had to build the car to stay where he was, like kind of running the pack that he was running in. And that's way different than you set up a car to run in the top 10 where you're in clean air. And so it was kind of interesting to see, like, as cars moved forward or fell back, how they could hold on or not. And then, saving the fuel, and just like, there's so many different things that go into the 500. It's such a details race, right? So I thought it was really awesome to watch.
It really was. So obviously I know we normally do the 3 random question generator, but I thought I had a couple questions that I had thought of on my own. So it's a David question generator in a way. So
okay, sounds good.
All right. So first one, if you could choose one track to be on the Indy Lights schedule, what would it be and why? Any track in the world.
Any track in the world. Oh my goodness.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. I think the Lights car does well on less bumpy surfaces. So I'm trying to think. Man, I really wish Watkins Glen was still on the schedule.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. So I haven't driven there in a Lights car, and I don't know what it's like. I haven't been there in a long time, but I just think that track is so amazing.
Yeah.
It's so good. But anywhere in the world, I mean, there's so many choices. I don't know which one I would choose.
Watkins Glen, like, I'm kind of partial to it because I've been there a lot of times, but just the fact that it's as high speed. I mean, I feel like IndyCar, when they were last there, they were going 180, 190, going barreling down to the bus stop, or like, it's just such a speed centered racetrack, that just happens to be a road course, and I feel like just being able to rip around through the S's, everything else, would probably be a thrill, I'd imagine.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah. So I really like Watkins Glen. I think it'd be cool if it came back. But I mean, other than that, I think it would be cool to do like maybe Surfer's Paradise or Mount Panorama or something like that. It's something just kind of crazy and off the wall, and that you wouldn't really get to race a Formula car on very often.
I think, what is IndyCar, like, they, or at least I forget what track it is in Argentina. I saw like possibly they're like wanting to have a race in there. I forget what track that was, but that'd be interesting. Maybe go over there. But best race day food and then worst race day food.
Ooh. Well, okay. So one of my favorite things to eat before race day is salmon. Just like a little salmon and rice, because it's like high in protein. It's got good fats. It's light on the stomach. Like, it doesn't feel like you're
way down.
Exactly. And I just really like salmon. So that is probably my favorite race day food. Worst race day food is probably like Taco Bell or anything like that, where it's super greasy and you just feel sick because you get hot and sweaty in the car. You're working hard, and like anything that just doesn't sit well with heat, it's just magnified in the car.
I was just gonna say, like, you ran cross country, didn't you? Right?
I did, yeah.
Were your coaches ever like really into day before the race?
Yep, we did the big spaghetti feed.
Yep. Okay. I've heard, like, I don't know, one coach is like, "Oh, it's terrible for you." Well, it tastes really good, that's for sure. That's all I.
Yeah, I don't know if it actually helps your performance, but I enjoyed them. It's actually funny. So I say Taco Bell because when I was running cross country, I started like partway through the season. The only reason I ran was because my marketing and econ teacher was the cross country coach. He's like, hey, we're not going to make it to districts unless we have another guy to run. So do you want to run? And I was like, nah, not really. And I think he actually gave me extra credit on one of my assignments to come out and at least try it. And so I was like, all right, I'll come out and try it. So I ran, and for my first cross country race, we had what was called Pirate Fridays. And so it's like a long lunch on a Friday, and we went to Taco Bell. And so like go to Taco Bell, eat, get on the bus, go to the meet. And I'm like halfway through the run. I'm like, like trying not to get rid of this Taco Bell out in the middle of a run. So that was like the worst experience I've ever had in my life. And I actually ran like my best time of the year, even though it was my first meet. It was like I was motivated to finish because I was feeling so sick and just so miserable. I was just like, I gotta finish this faster. So it was pretty good, but yeah, not the best pre-race meal.
I feel, yeah, it's funny. I had like a similar thing. I think I had bronchitis. The one
Oh
race,
yeah,
like it was like a rainy damn, just one of my better times. And like afterwards, I find out, yeah, bronchitis. I'm like, what? It's
yeah,
how? I guess it
yeah,
might be that kind of like, mental, like I just want to get this done. I don't care, that kind of thing. But
yeah.
who knows?
Like
Maybe
you're
something.
past the point of pain. It's just so miserable. You're like, I don't even care at this
Yep,
point. I'm gonna keep running and get it done as fast as possible.
exactly. So if you could race in any throwback livery inspired
Oh,
livery on your car, what would it be?
I was actually just talking about this the other day because I think the 500 should have, or not the 500, maybe like the second GP weekend
Yeah.
should have a throwback livery for every car. Um, I think like the old Penske cars with like the chrome on them look
Mm-hmm.
sick.
Yep.
Oh man, I think there's so many good ones. That's probably the one I'd roll with. So the old Penske chrome. Yeah.
Those are nice. I'd say, ooh, I mean, this is probably my first Indy car I had was a Dario
Oh yeah.
Franchitti Target Chip
There you go.
Ganassi car. So I don't know, just seeing the targets on on like the side pods, I think those are always
Yeah.
really cool and a definitive look. You knew, oh, they're going to be out to,
Yeah.
win Indy three
Yeah.
times to,
And actually the one that's right behind you, I think that's Mario, isn't it? The number
oh,
two.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, pretty simple and plain, but I still
yep.
love it. It's so cool.
And just like the way it's like, I think it was like at the IMS Museum last year or something like that. And the way that just the red slash orange pops, you're like, yeah, that's gonna
Yeah.
look good in the sunlight.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
And final one, if IndyCar didn't exist, so you couldn't go through the Road to Indy program, what form of motorsport would you choose to have a career in?
Can I say Formula car racing, or is that skipping it?
Skipping that one too.
Skipping that one too.
Yep.
Um,
No open wheel racing, essentially.
no open. Man, what else is there? um, I tried everything in 2016. So I just about everything. I did dirt modified cars. I did go karts. I did Corvettes. I did open wheel, and I did a little bit of NASCAR racing. And I think that for me, I think rallycross or rally car racing or off road racing of some sort would be an absolute blast. Just because it's raw. Like that's just you're given everything every turn, and you don't know what's around the next one. And I think it'd just be super fun to have that kind of car handling and car control, out in the middle of a desert somewhere. So
I
yeah,
say rallycross seems like I feel like that's a really underappreciated motorsport in general, just because like you can tell that they're flying through there, like going up through the gears, and like they're always just on it, and like there's no, I guess, rest time. Let's say like a stock car type of thing where
hmm
like it just seems like it's just, yeah, like you mentioned, that raw ability of having to whip it around and make sure you're as precise as possible.
yeah. One of my racing inspirations was Travis Pastrana growing up.
Yeah.
And like he's one of the ones that inspired me to get a go-kart. But like more recently in the last few years, I've been watching his Subaru onboard videos from rally car races. And I mean, it's like a doctor, right? Like if a doctor is working on someone in surgery and says whoops, it's like that's not good.
Yeah.
And when Travis Pastrana is doing that and saying, oh shoot, oh shoot, oh shoot, you're like, that's really not good because it's Travis Pastrana. Like this guy will do a triple backflip on a dirt bike, no problem, and not be saying that kind of a thing. But when he steps into a rally car and has that kind of a moment, I think that that's just so cool. Like that that's on the limit. You're pushing everything to the max.
Say he's always been one of those guys that you're like, you knew he was gonna whatever he was in, even if it was NASCAR, like which didn't go as
Yeah.
well as I'm sure he hoped it would. But that dude's insane. He's definitely someone racing wise that you'd want to look up to with just how just open he is with anything.
Yeah. Yeah. He's definitely a versatile driver for sure.
Well, that unfortunately is all the time we do have for today. It's been really jam packed to say the least. Look out for the next episode of Behind the Helmet here soon. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. You can follow this podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Behind Catch. And where can we follow you?
Well, it's pretty easy to find me. I'm at Sting Ray Robb on most social medias. And if it's not at Sting Ray Robb, I think it's at Sting_Ray_Robb. So there you go.
That's perfect. Thank you guys for tuning in again, and we'll see you next time.